good with this? Are you excited about this?
Absolutely. I will talk about anything. Let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Truth Be Told, where honestly, it's in the name. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And ladies and gentlemen, you know where you are. It's Monday night, the day before the 4th of July. Welcome to Truth Be Told. And look, I know you see this guy over here, my guy. If you know anything about any of these shows, check the comments. That's where you'll find my guy. But we need to give him a little FaceTime. We need to bring him on here. Scott Thaler. What up, Scott? How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Got the hat on, I see.
Yeah, I was actually looking for another hat, but they were all dirty, so I hadn't put them through the dishwasher yet.
Hey, I love it. I love it, man. We do have to shout out our guy and one of the hosts of the show, Nicholas. I want the smoke, Rosario. He just worked 22 hours over at Wrigley. I think Friday night he worked a game and they had a rain delay. Didn't start till real late. He didn't get home till very, very late. And then Saturday, the same. And then just came back and had to deal with some issues with the rain in the house and everything like that. There was a little flooding. So he will be back with us next week. But I think this is great that we have my guy Scott on, because the last two episodes, this one and the last one, were brought to us by this guy right here. Scott, and I got to give you your praise, your shout out on that, man, because that was huge. We needed it. So hey, look, let's get into it. Truth be told, and we're here to talk about something that's very serious, something that we're not even fully out of, and it happened in 2020, and it's been going through the pandemic, ladies and gentlemen. Something that affected us all, something that we're still affecting us. We're still having to deal with the repercussions. Scott, when you hear this, when you hear the topic you suggested, the pandemic, what is your thoughts? What's your immediate thoughts?
It brings back memories of the beginning.
Yeah.
Panic, worried about where we're going to get food,
Yep.
Toilet paper.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had a friend who knew a guy that owned a janitorial service, and I wound up getting 5 cases of 80 rolls of toilet paper. So that kind of eased my situational stress, anxiety.
Right.
And brought that home, bought a bunch of Clorox and Lysol in concentrated gallon jugs. Could have made 72 gallons out of each one of those.
Oh, wow.
Only gone through 2 of them, and the only reason I went through 2 is because I gave my daughter one.
Yeah, I can dig it. And this when you think of it, obviously you could think of what it did, the tragedy, a lot of death. It kind of hit us out of nowhere in a sense. I remember thinking of things I did for that Christmas or January. I think my fiance went to New Orleans in February, with a bunch of her friends and had a great time. And then that next month, everything happened. And let me stop right there. Before I hit this, let me say to my dear, my sweet Catherine, I want to tell you happy birthday. July 3rd is her birthday, her and her twin. So happy birthday, Christina, as well. Kat is at home with her parents, spending time with them, and then we'll spending time with the rest of the family in West Virginia. So I just want to say happy birthday. You are amazing. I'm glad that you were able to have this summer vacation. She is a teacher, and she is off for the break now. So happy birthday to you, babe.
Happy birthday, Kat. I'm keeping an eye on Sean for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep. And she just said in the comments, happy birthday to me. And then the toilet paper shortage. We also got a number of the little the containers and things of toilet paper. We hit Costco up hard in the early stages just to kind of not. We did it after the fact, but we did it before everything really got tense. But I do think that brings up the question that you just asked. We both went out and did these things. We both went out and got things. But were we prepared? Like when it really hit, I want to say around here for us, it hit. They shut everything down and the end of March of 2020. Were we prepared at that point? Were you guys prepared?
Not really. I mean, my wife was doing grocery shopping on a weekly basis. Yeah. Now we only go like 4 to 8 weeks without going to the grocery store. And it's like every time you get something, you think, come back home and you think, oh man, I should have gotten this. I mean,
right.
The Clorox wipes, all that, the spray bottles. I mean, then we were figuring how are we going to get things that we really need, like we get those little paper towels like you put in a container and you pull down like when you're in a restroom. Oh, yeah. We didn't use regular towels because my wife says that's dirty. She never liked them. But, you know, if you have somebody come over that's not vaccinated or you don't know whether they have COVID or not, you don't want wiping your hands on the same towels.
Right. You want to have it. Right.
And then I was panicky about breathing because I have some breathing problems from allergies and that. Mm. So I got a personal humidifier. And then I was reading up on line about hydrogen peroxide therapy. Mm. So I was adding a cap full of hydrogen peroxide to the water in my personal humidifier.
Okay.
That helped me a lot.
Oh yeah.
So and then I was gargling like 6-7 times a day with Listerine because I figured it said that COVID stays in the back of your throat for like 3 days. So I figured no. It's not going to stay in my throat. I'm going to gargle out.
Right. Right.
You know, and you were washing your hands like
all the time,
25 times a day. And, you know, when you went to the bathroom, when you ate, we came home from the grocery store, I would take the Lysol or the Clorox and spray all the handles. I'd go out to the car first.
Oh, yeah.
Spray all the handles, the gear shift levers, everything you touch. And then I come in, I get the garage door, the back garage door, and the door inner, and then the grocery bags. You know, they're all handled, so you don't know what's on there. So you can't wash everything. It's like you can't wash grapes in Clorox.
Right. But to your point, though, my dad, the first time we came over, like during mid-pandemic, my parents greeted us with the mask and the gloves on, and in one hand, my mom had one of those little spray bottles. My dad had a spray bottle, and the other hand, my mom had one of those temperature thermometers. And she, as soon as we got to the door, click, okay, you're good. Come on in. But it was that way, and that it was natural. Look, I agree. With us, we weren't prepared. We, in our house, we didn't really understand. Like I said, Kat went to New Orleans in February. And I mean, we were just going on with life. We kind of heard certain things here and there, but it didn't really hit until March when they started to shut down schools. And they started even before they started to talk about shutting down schools. And then right around spring break is around the time right after that is when they did shut them down for us. And I mean, you talk about the craze for the toilet paper. We hit once early in the year, we hit Costco, got some, and then we tried to let that ride out. It didn't last as long, but we didn't have that big of an issue. Where we are, it's just her and I. So it really wasn't, between the two of us, it wasn't that major of an issue for us. And in certain places we went to, like we're privy to, like there's a 7-Eleven and a gas station. And even though that toilet paper is not great, I mean, we were able to hit that. Like it didn't, I guess the whole craze didn't really hit certain areas or certain places as hard because we didn't have a problem looking for it, but we weren't prepared.
Yeah. Well, we were used to getting in the grocery store.
Yeah.
First time we went to the grocery store when the pandemic was mentioned, I live in an affluent area.
Okay.
And people were going in and hoarding, just buying anything, paper towels, napkins, there was a lady that was crying because she couldn't find any Clorox.
Yeah.
And I said, look at that. You see those spray bottles you spray under your toilet to get the hidden parts?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. And
Yeah.
she said, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I'm still working on my 400 rolls of toilet paper. And it's over 3 years now, so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky too because my dad owned an engraving shop, and he used to work with toxic materials. So he had respirators, and he had the N95 mask, but it had the little valve on it.
Yeah.
Which you weren't supposed to use like when you went to the grocery store because it protected you, but it didn't protect from you exhaling COVID if you had it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but he had the cold air mask. He had the surgical masks, not the blue ones, but the yellow ones. And I don't know if those had the fiberglass or whatever in them, but you know, I didn't pass it. I used them, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting until the essential workers weren't the only ones to get these N95 respirators.
Oh yeah.
So I went and bought. I still have 3 more boxes of 10, so I got over 30 boxes or 30 masks.
Oh wow.
And then my wife works for a major hospital called Mercy.
Oh nice. Yep, I've had those.
And inside got a PM 2.5 filter in them. This one's old because I don't really use them that much. But I got mad at my wife. I said, no, you have to wear a KN95 at least. And I was paying $15 a piece.
Oh yeah.
For a mask that was only going to be good for like 1 day.
They weren't cheap.
No,
they weren't cheap.
And,
they weren't cheap. But look,
you can get these for less than $1.
Right. They're almost giving them away. But that's a great segue because now the pandemic's here. Now we're in the midst of it. What was your reaction? I mean, obviously you went to get those things, but were you retired at that point? Or
yeah, I retired in 2014, and I was actually waiting until I was 66 and 4 months because before that you can only make like $15,740 a year without getting any penalties from Social Security.
Right.
So as soon as I got that, the pandemic hit.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't want to go out and work. So I even got invited back to work for the post office because people weren't coming in, and I said nope.
That's the last thing you want. Yeah. No, I did have to work. I work with I work at a company where we support adults with mental disabilities. So I worked in a group home and I did the overnights. So for me, nothing ever changed, except for certain personal things. But as far as work was concerned, it never changed. And Scott, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a ghost town. Like there was nobody around any places, and it was weird because a lot of the things that maybe like if you were hungry and you wanted to go certain places, there was that time when everything was literally shut down except for maybe gas stations and stuff like that, and you couldn't go to any of those places. And it was literally like you went there to work, you did that, and you turned around and you came home. And I mean, it was a funny feeling at certain points, Well,
my wife works for Mercy, like I said, and I was worried about her going into work because there's thousands of people. She didn't work in the hospital; she works in a computer center.
Okay.
And, her boss, they were on a meeting, and he said everybody's going home. Everybody's working from home from now on.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So since March 20th of 2020, she's been working from home. She goes in every once in a while because she has to deal with equipment and stuff that has to go out to the pharmacies, the hospitals, the cafeterias, and all that.
Oh, yeah.
So I always have these on hand.
Oh yeah.
So, and Social Security or Medicare stopped paying for those, I think, last month. So I have a bunch of them. So I have to go through them because some of them were supposedly toxic to you or did something to you that could harm your health.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's just stupid little things. My bank sent me this in the mail.
Yeah, what is that?
It's got two. It's a thing you put on your keychain,
Uh-huh.
and this cutout part here, when you have it on your keychain, it's for grabbing door handles. Like if you're going to the bank or something, to pull the door open so you don't have to touch the door.
Huh.
You know, and naturally we all had hand sanitizer in our pockets.
Everywhere. Oh, yeah.
And then the tip, I mean, this is really getting bad. The tip was for pushing doorbells.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's, I've never seen that one before.
Yeah, my friend owns the bank, so I thanked him for that.
Yeah.
But even now, the bank does not have tellers at the counters.
Oh, yeah.
They've done out that without having those anymore, and you have to go to a banker, sit at a desk, and they got a plastic. They still have the plastic up.
Yeah.
And if you go in, it's got a sign that says, "Please take your mask off and look into the camera."
Oh, wow. Where? Oh.
Because, I mean,
that's
think about it.
Affluent areas.
Think about it before the pandemic. If somebody walked into a bank wearing an N95 mask or a black mask like this,
oh, yeah,
they were there to rob the bank.
Yeah, exactly.
Either that or they had some kind of respiratory illness. You know, usually that's older people. So,
yeah.
But there's a lot of younger people that have asthma.
That is kind of crazy, though, because now, I mean, I don't know the numbers on that, but is there any advent in bank robberies during that time? Because now it's like, well, shoot, everybody's wearing a mask. I mean, I'm not saying that's a good idea, but if you were going to go do it at a certain time.
Mainly it was smash and grabs.
Yeah.
You know, usually in
a lot of jewelry stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The banks, nobody wanted to handle cash anyway, so.
Well, and that's the thing. That's happened a lot around, I mean, everywhere. I mean, Catherine and her sister lives in Chicago, so we would drive up and down the toll road, down 70 and with the Ohio Turnpike and all that stuff. And when we first started driving there, when we first were together about 10 years ago, there was people at the toll every time. The trip was like an hour longer because of all the tolls. And to this day, I think through Pennsylvania and then through Maryland, Pennsylvania, and then maybe Ohio, up to a certain point, there's nobody at the booth. And even through certain points in Ohio, it's just you get a ticket out. Like there's no hand-to-hand interaction. There's nothing. They really, I mean, they say either easy pass or they'll take a picture of your license plate and bill you later. Like that type of thing. But I mean, since the pandemic, they've completely shut down in a lot of places that hand-to-hand contact at all. I mean, completely.
Well, a lot of people went out of business because the restaurants, fast food and that, they weren't allowed to open the doors. And a lot of restaurants like the old Country Buffet and all that, they closed down and shut down all the buffets. They consider that a hazard.
Oh, yeah.
And my favorite Chinese restaurant, they had a buffet, Happy China, and they were only cooking and takeouts.
Okay.
And my friend owned it. I asked him, I said, do you have any shrimp or crab legs and stuff like that are frozen? He says, yeah, I'm just about getting ready to sell them. I said, well, when you do, let me know because I'll buy them.
Get them, absolutely.
Evidently, they either sold it to somebody else or they used them.
Yeah.
They were probably using them themselves at home because it saves you a trip to the grocery store.
Yeah, true. Shout out to Ben Cornett, who's in the comments, said, just imagine if we had the pandemic during a time when social media didn't exist. It would have been even scarier for many people. I mean, look, we can go back to the pandemic from before, the one that we've all learned about, the flu pandemic in 1918, I believe.
That the Black Plague?
Essentially for us. But it's crazy because now it's a footnote in history, but now we are also a part of that. Like they didn't have anything, especially at that time frame. And now, I mean, we did have, and you know what? And I love that too, because to that point, Ben, one of the things that the pandemic did do for me, is that it kind of gave me an opportunity to reset on certain things. You know, I had been a coach for a while. I mean, I kind of worked a couple jobs. I didn't really have a passion in what it was. And during the pandemics, when you had all of this time to sit around, I started obviously watching TV, and I would watch, you know, the sports shows, and I'd see all these people talking, and there was only a couple voices that were out there talking. And I'm like, man, I don't agree with any of this. I'm just not feeling it. And it got me to a point where I kind of said, man, I kind of want to do something of my own. But you got to understand, before this, I had a very big fear of being in front of people. If we were all live, I don't know that I would have been able to interact in the same way that I do under this platform. The advent of, Zoom was going on before, but when Zoom kind of really exploded, one of the things I wish I would have put some money on in the stocks pre-COVID, when that thing really exploded, honestly, that to me kind of hit a light bulb, and I got to a position where I was like, we're already doing a show with me and Janae. Let's get into it. And I had a friend, shout out to Delilah's boyfriend, Kev Rockin, who is a local DJ in Chicago. He did an online DJ like online karaoke thing at night, and her sister, Kat's sister, lives in Chicago, so she was a part of it. We would log on and we would just be interacting with everybody. And the thing I loved is that these people didn't know me from Adam. Just like in the sense when I met you guys, like you and Johnny and everything, you guys don't know me from Adam. And it's that kind of fresh start, new. It's open. There's no, like, I can't see until you tell me how tall you are when you get up. I can't see how tall you are. I don't know any of that. And I love that because it levels everything out. And it took kind of that anxiety that I had about talking in front of people and that fear, and coupled it with the fact that I'm sick and tired of other talking heads kind of, they're speaking for me in a sense. And I was like, I need to get my voice out. So towards the fall, towards the end of the first year of the pandemic in 2020 is when I started reaching out to Nick and Delilah and, you know, my guy David Wright and a lot of these different guys, and started to say, hey, you know, would you be interested in? Now, things didn't happen overnight. It took a while. But for me to get to where I was right now, that reset, that whole kind of time during the pandemic was actually a blessing for me. You know, again, I don't want to belittle anything that happened in the pandemic. It was a rough time. It was really terrible, and we're actually about to get into why. But in a sense, for me, it was a rebirth. You know, it kind of opened me up to some things that maybe I hadn't been tapping in before, and it gave me an opportunity to just kind of sit and see things in a different light. You know, yeah. So we got through it.
I became an organizer. I organized a coffee meetup group.
Okay.
When the pandemic came, I created a Facebook video chat for all my coffee people.
Nice.
Kind of like a Zoom. I mean,
yeah.
And we did that for a long time. And then a couple of them had got COVID. One died.
Oh.
And one friend got it immediately because she had a workman at the house, and he left, and he was sitting on the truck, and she went outside and asked him if he's okay. He says, no, I'm really sick. And I don't know if she did it. I think she called the EMTs to come out. And wow. he wound up having COVID, and she got it.
Yeah.
So, and she has diabetes and some other health issues. And I was worried to death about her. And then my other friend went to, I think, Costa Rica and was on the airplane. She came home, and like 2 days later, she had COVID. So I didn't want to go on an airplane, and my wife's family's all out in California. And I was holding my breath the whole time because her mother's elderly, and we were worried that she was going to pass on. And they just went out this past May to celebrate Mother's Day and her birthday. She turned 88. And I didn't go because I had to stay home with my dogs and the birds. So, and I mean, that cost like $500 a day for 2 dogs and 2 birds to board them. Yeah. So it was ridiculous. So
wow.
I became self-sufficient. My wife usually does all the dog stuff and all the bird stuff, feeding them, changing their water. So I got used to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Just that, and I organized my 50th high school reunion.
Yeah. Shout out to you for that.
Second, third, and fourth, and that came out pretty good. Even though I bowed out because I was getting into it. Tempers were flaring, and basically, when you're in a pandemic, you don't filter yourself.
Mm.
I found myself not filtering myself as much as you can tell on some of the shows I've been on.
Yes, I've seen that side.
Show is tell it like it is.
Yeah. Telling you, it's there. It writes itself, man. Come on.
One good thing about tonight, Johnny's traveling, so he's not going to be on me.
Right. I was like, where? I haven't seen him in there. I haven't seen him. Yo, shout out to my dear friend Gretchen Urban, and she said we lost our golden corral and the mother of a young child we loved at that restaurant. And I think that's a great segue. We have to kind of get into this. We're not have to go into it, name names. You were kind of alluding to it before. We had it hit right where we are. Catherine got it soon, obviously from the school and all that, and she was in from late March to the middle of April, and before that for me it was just a news story. I understood what everything was happening, but it wasn't real. That I lived, but when that happened and seeing her go into the hospital, knowing they shut me off at a certain point, you can't come back in here, you have to go over here, going through the what is it called? That there's a little tent or like a little tunnel walkway you have to go through where they have to spray you and scan you and do the whole thing, and they're in these like super space suits and all this crazy stuff, and it's like, wait, whoa,
decontamination,
right, and it's crazy. Like it makes me think. My dad and me love like kind of some of the cartoon movies, the monster movies, Monsters Inc., where when they got like the sock. I don't know if you guys seen this, so if you haven't, if this reference is out, don't worry about it. But when they got like the child sock after they come through the door, they had to like shave their whole thing. It was like a decontamination thing. It's exactly that, but it just kind of put it all in perspective. It made it real. So immediately my thought went to my parents. Immediately my thought went to my grandparents, all which got it at certain particular times during the pandemic or during the heavy parts of it. Thankfully, nobody passed. Catherine came home, and but it was just so real. I mean, she taught from home, she's one of those that is one of the long haulers that still has breathing issues, still had like she had asthma before, but that definitely did not help. But what about you, Scott?
Like I said, I don't know if I said it on air before we were talking or behind the stage. I think I had it like between Christmas and New Year's of 2019 before it was announced. Because I was so sick I couldn't walk on my own. I'd get up, I would fall forward and just crash to the floor. Yep. And then my wife just said, when you have to go, call me and I'll help you make sure you don't fall. Because I'm a fall and slip hazard at the time.
Yeah.
And just the fever, the headache, stomach pain, just muscle problems. And it's like I take medication that messes me up. I take a cholesterol medicine, Vastatin, that makes me cramp up. I'll be laying in my recliner sleeping, and I get up and my feet just go like this, my toes.
Oh.
And it hurts like heck. And then sometimes my calf, you want to talk about pain. When your calf starts to cramp up and it doesn't stop. And the first thing I do is I jump up, put my toes on the ground, and push forward on a wall.
Oh yeah.
That usually takes care of it. But if I just sit there and suffer, that could hurt for like a week.
Sure.
Just something else. What really hit me the hardest was when the first time I went to go get KN95's mask for my wife and I, which I was paying $15 a piece for them, and they were only good for like one day.
Right.
I used mine a lot longer. If I wasn't around people when I was wearing it or getting close, I'd wear it another day. But I went into a Mercy pharmacy, which is what my wife works for is Mercy Hospital.
Hmm.
And when you walk through the doors, they'd be there with a thermometer that they could hold away from your head, not on your head, but away from it, and take your temperature. And they'd say, okay, you're all right, you can go. But that to me, that was, being stuck at home and not going anywhere and constantly being in there and only ordering things online. I mean, like you mentioned, you got DoorDash.
Yep.
We never got DoorDash, but we only went to the grocery store like every 4 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're spending like $700 to $900
Yeah.
coming out with two grocery carts full of bags stacked on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Underneath. We wouldn't just buy one case of water. We'd buy 3 or 4 cases of water to make sure in case they ran out of that, because that was another being shorted. And it's just something else. And then you got to worry about taking the dogs for a walk, because everywhere you went, there were masks laying on the ground in the street. There were rubber gloves. People were throwing rubber gloves. It used to be, this may be too much information, but it wasn't that way before. It was only like condoms and hypodermic needles that were on the street. And like I said, I live in an affluent neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you had condoms and hypodermic needles. It's truth be told, man. You're telling the truth, my friend.
So, but your dog would be sniffing the ground. People be spitting on the ground.
Wow.
Getting sick on the ground. That's another thing. People didn't know whether or not dogs or animals could get it.
Yeah.
And evidently they could, because there were zoos that were having to put down animals that had COVID.
Mm.
So, and they weren't sniffing around, people in streets that were covered with stuff from people.
Yeah.
So that was something else. And with my daughter not being pro-vaccine, they've never been vaccinated. Her and her boyfriend, and his family hasn't been vaccinated, and that caused a lot of rift between us.
And a lot of families.
Yeah. I mean, to tell the truth, I mean, a lot of my friends know it. A lot of them don't. And most of the people on here really don't know me that well. But we were going to family counseling because I was having problems with my daughter.
Mm.
And it was not working out that well. And then COVID came along and we quitted. And I was worried about her. She was worried about me. And it's like all that just went away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not important anymore.
A reset.
Yeah. So that's one positive thing that came out of it. And with my wife working from home, I didn't have to worry about getting on the highway every morning and at night, possibly getting killed, or as we all know, you could be anywhere now and you could get shot.
Anything can happen, right?
Mass shootings and stuff like that. And with people just going crazy because of the pandemic, I think that's why there's a lot of this mass shootings. Of course, the media plays on it more than they would not during the pandemic. I mean, this stuff's been going on for years and years, way before the pandemic. But now it seems like every day. Baltimore just had one.
Mm-hmm.
I think Indiana just had another one.
Mm-hmm. There was some in Michigan. But I honestly, I think that's great. That's a great way to segue into, did the pandemic change us? And I think you're right. I mean, Catherine talks about it in school, is that there's a set of kids that went through 2 years, maybe like kindergarten, first grade, or first grade, second grade, where they're just not on the same level as if they had been in public. When you're sitting there behind the camera screen, when you're sitting there and you got your toys and your parents and everything around you, it's just a different. You're not opening up, you're not exploring. And now a lot of them are having issues now because they're coming back into school, not being able to kind of handle certain situations because they didn't have to. They haven't learned those things in their early formative years. And like you said, with that stuff too, like it's look, one of the things that blew up during the pandemic was podcasters, little video guys, shows and things like this, streaming sites and whatnot, but also the TikTokers and all those people out there that, they get on Instagram and live and TikTok and whatever, and they have their thing going. And the thing is, it's now all about the click. Now all it's about, because that's what we were doing for 2 years, sitting inside, and all we can do was watch YouTube, watch Netflix, watch all these little things. Look how Netflix blew up. Look how all these streaming, Peacock, Hollywood Plus, all these different streaming sites have blown up now, and opened up avenues for forums like us to do this type of stuff. It's helped in certain ways, but it's also hurt because you see a lot of these videos. You look at John Morant, the guard for the Grizzlies, who sat there and got suspended 25 games for sitting here on a TikTok video with a gun in his, brandishing a gun. Like, for what? Why? But it has become more of that by brand, how many likes, how many views, how many this I can get, and it's a shame. But you could kind of understand when you were, you've been stuck in for a certain amount of time. This is kind of what's going to happen once you get the opportunity to get out. It's like somebody in prison. You've been stuck in for a while. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to gorge probably some fast food. You're going to go out or get some ladies, whatever, you're going to go through that because you haven't had that, and that's what people are doing. They haven't had that. And now it's in a snapshot because it's happening right after the other. But a lot of this stuff, mental health is a huge thing. Look how much mental health has been brought to the mainstream now. It's a huge thing because people are starting to see that that pandemic, it wasn't just nail salons and grocery stores and fast food places that got shut down. Mental health places got shut down. Mental facilities and healthcare facilities for people, not all of them were able to stay open. A lot of those things were shut down or severely suffered, and people suffered. And I think we really are kind of seeing the effects of that in a lot of things that you're talking about, Scott.
Well, we had restrictions on restaurants and things like that some of the owners, they just went against the regulation and opened their doors, and people were going in and they were getting fined and threatened with having their business license taken away. And my friend owns another restaurant up the street from me, and it's like I felt bad for him, but I thought it was wrong for him to go against what the rules they were putting forth. The World Health Organization was making rules, and people, it's just like anything. Everybody has their own opinion about stuff. Right. And some people thought this is nothing. It's like a cold or a flu. And people like myself who have diabetes, high blood pressure, a little bit overweight. And, we were scared. I mean, I was shaking. And before that, I was actually in worse shape because I actually got in good shape during the pandemic because I lost weight. I finally started going. I hadn't seen a diabetic eye doctor. I have to have an exam once a year. I went 3.5 years without having that, along with not going to the hospital when I had 2 kidney stones and a bout of diverticulitis, which I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but it's an intestinal thing where you have terrible pain. It's not quite as much as a kidney stone, but close to it. But you can become septic from either one of those. I didn't want to go to the doctor. Doctor didn't want to see me. I didn't want to go to the emergency room. I didn't want to go to the urgent care because you go to the urgent care, and then if you got a kidney stone, they're going to send you for a CT scan at the emergency room. Then you're going to wait another 6 hours.
Yeah.
So it was just ridiculous. So I just put up with the pain. And I had been on a medication for 21 years that I was only supposed to be on for 4 weeks, I found out.
Oh, wow.
And it did some major damage to my body.
Yeah.
And, I finally had to go through that. And that was another thing. My neurologist had me on the medication. She couldn't treat me to the point where she could cut me off that medication. I actually had to go see a psychiatrist for 2.5 years to get me off this prescription medicine called lorazepam.
Oh, yeah. Heard about that.
If you ever watch a doctor hospital show, when they go in the hospital and the patient's freaking out and shaking and going to all convulsions and all that, I said, give me 1 milligram of lorazepam.
Give them the good stuff.
So finally I'm off of that. I had to go through like 4 different medications to get me down, and now I'm on something that's not class item and it's not a controlled substance, but it's supposed to be a depression medicine, but it's also for anxiety, which is what I have. So, but with the pandemic, I mean, I went on full blown.
Yep.
I can't think of the word.
What, panic? What?
I was having panic attacks, every day. And I don't know if you ever had a panic attack or not, but you feel like a 18-wheeler pulled over your chest.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then you think you got COVID because that's one of the first signs you have a breathing problem. And I was sitting here taking a deep breath and holding my breath for like 15 seconds. And they said if you have problems catching your wind after that, you might have COVID. So. And then you have to go get one of these or go to the pharmacy and stand in a window, which many times I didn't want to go in the pharmacy. So I went through the drive-through. And then the guy in front of me was getting a COVID test, which takes a long time.
Yep.
And you're sitting there, and there's two lines, and the line you didn't get into, it's going. And you're still sitting there like a half hour later.
Yep. Yes, I've been in those lines. And you're just sitting here like, all right, the ones that are wrapped around the corner and the whole nine, man.
Speaking of line, I mean, people didn't respect your space either. Remember they had the little footprints.
Mm-hmm.
Where you were supposed
to stand on. Yep.
Yeah, and you weren't supposed to move up until the next people moved up to the next set of footprints.
Yep.
People weren't doing that. I mean, it's like
no. And that's the other part, and that's maybe that's some of the reason why there's a lot of the aggression that we have going on right now is because, everybody was regimented. Everybody had to stay in a certain spot. It was strongly recommended that you only get a certain amount of toilet paper, water, whatever it was, some of us got the maximum, but honestly, it kind of put us all in a kind of like, you have to stand this many feet apart. You can't, it's somebody telling you what to do. That was at the very end of everything. That's what I think people had a real problem with. Somebody telling them, you need to do this. You need to do this. You can't come to this part. You can't. They're like, don't tell me what to do. People have a problem with that.
Well, I felt bad because my wife and I went to the grocery store where you have to use 2 carts because we only go like 4 to 8 weeks. And the grocery store we went to is called Deerberg's, and they were only allowing you 4 rolls of toilet paper.
Oh, wow.
So I said to my wife, you get 4, I get 4. That's 8.
Right. So
basically, before I got my 400 rolls of toilet paper, we had saved up like 100 rolls.
Yeah.
The Charmin and the Viva, whatever it is, Scott, Kleenex, all that stuff. I'm in what I call the computer room, and right now I'm looking at toilet paper, paper towels, Kleenex,
prepared
hand soaps.
Yep.
I mean,
Scott, you're what I like to call preparation over paranoia.
Well, I was prepared.
Oh yeah.
I still am.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think that it is. It's a preparation type thing. For me, it was more of a long term. It was, before I talked about it on this show a couple weeks back with, the age thing and not doing certain things at a certain time. This was my reset to where it was kind of like, all right, I'm giving new life, new opportunities, and a lot of the things that I'm doing now, as far as how much I dive into these shows and how much I'm constantly talking about creating new shows, Tell It Like It Is with great Scott Thaler. We might have something. I'm just saying. But even those things, like right now, I'm so focused and regimented on, okay, what's the next thing? What's going on? How can I get this person and what they're doing, what they like to do? How do let me lift them, give them that opportunity. I'm just trying to open up doors and be better for other people, because one of the things the pandemic definitely did, Scott, and you talked about it, a lot of people lost their life, and it affects us. It hits all of us, to the people that we knew, even to the people that we did not know. It was just, I don't know if it's like a survivor's remorse or something, where it's kind of like, that could have been me. I never stopped going out. I was always out, and I didn't always do my hands right. I only got the first shots, and I've always thought that like it could have been me, and all these other people passed. So I think the pandemic kind of made me just, open up and kind of get a fresh, like that fresh water in your face in the morning where it's like, okay, I'm awake now. I get it.
Yeah, but it's different for you and me because
True.
you're a young person. I forgot
Very
how
true.
old you are.
I'll be 40 this year.
Okay, you're 40. So I'm 28 years older than you.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of health problems. You probably don't have any health problems that I know of. I mean,
Not that
I don't know
I
if
know
you want to discuss it or not. But,
Yeah.
Most of the young people I know, they were all saying it's not anything but the flu.
Mhm.
My immune system will just knock it out if I get it, or it'll keep me from getting it. I don't need the vaccine. And it's like, I couldn't wait to get that needle in my arm. When they announced that they had it, I said, I'm going to get it. And my wife's boss announced that they're essential workers.
Mhm.
They're supposed to go to a certain center in a certain area, and they're the only ones that can get the shot. That and the hospital workers, the doctors, and all that.
I was in that group.
So it's like, well, you work with elderly people, so if you got it and you gave it to them, they could possibly,
right,
come to the COVID.
Exactly.
So it's like I was telling you earlier. I don't know if I don't think I said it on air, but I had a friend that had a mother that was in a nursing home, and the mother. I mean, these people they don't have all their faculties about them, and they don't understand what the pandemic is. I mean, some of them might even have lived through, 1918. I don't think many people alive from that time.
Right. They were like, "Oh man, I already have been through this. Come on, man." Yeah.
But I mean, you had all the people. The kids are having birthday parties. They couldn't have them anymore.
Yeah.
So their friends would dress their car up in balloons and have signs and drive by their house.
That.
And honked and waved. And they'd have masks on. They'd jump out and hand them a gift.
Yeah.
And they run back to their car.
They did that for graduations and stuff too. And you know what? And out of that, I think that was something that really kind of helped us all because it made us more creative. I mean, like what I said with all the shows and all the things I'm doing, it kind of forced us to reach maybe into a certain part of our brain or a certain part of our aura and figure out what it is that maybe we can do a little bit better. What can we do in this situation? We adjusted. We all kind of adjusted. And now, I mean, for the most part, people like yourself, myself, I understand the age and the health concerns and everything, but I kind of think we're stronger for getting through it. I don't know if you could say that. Maybe we're just survivors, Beyonce.
Yeah. But they pulled all the restrictions. Missouri was always in the red. I'm not referring to any political party.
Yeah.
But it was a red and a green and the yellow. It was the severity in that area. Well, Missouri, especially St. Louis, was always in the red, and they always had mask mandates going into grocery stores, the hospitals, and all that. Now they've raised it, and I look at people in the grocery store, and when I see a person in the grocery store when I'm in there wearing a mask, I thank them.
Yeah. I understand. And I mean, hey, people have their positions on it. But like you said, I've seen that too, where, certain areas definitely, not as much. Well, Northern Virginia had a certain spot, but definitely my fiance's family in West Virginia, that was a red area. And in certain places, it was scarce. You didn't see masks. And it was to each his own, do your thing. Me and my house, we definitely taking care. My dad was, worked in the medical field for decades. He did the medical field, also worked on health video company they created called Healthcare Video, where he took, videos of certain, doctors and the offices and different procedures, things like that. And so he was always around it. One of the things that my dad to this day will give me is a pack of fresh, new masks. And he'll say, "Do you need a mask? Do you need gloves? I got a box of gloves right over here." That's what he hoarded. He hoarded masks and gloves. And he had the hand sanitizer, the whole nine. And he just, you talk about preparation. He got those things he needed. He was always paying attention on the news, what was coming up, what was the new thing. And he just kept himself fresh on everything that was going on. Now, mind you, my dad this year will be 84 years old. Marine veteran, veteran of that time, right before the Vietnam War. You know what I mean? He has seen a lot. He's been through a lot. Born in 1939, and he did. I think he got it after the fact, maybe like late 2021, when he already had multiple shots and everything, so it wasn't severe for him. But still, it would just at the end of the day, finding new ways to reinvent yourself.
Yeah. I'm not. I don't want to sound like I'm glad my mother is gone, but I'm glad she didn't survive to go through this pandemic. She had emphysema, COPD. When she died, she weighed like 375 pounds, and she was only 5'2".
Oh wow! Yeah.
And high blood pressure. She hadn't been to a dentist in since she was like 10, and she was 78 when she died.
Oh, okay.
She had all her teeth. I couldn't believe she had. They were really? Yellow. They were yellow.
Oh, well,
they were yellow, but she brushed her teeth every day, and she had all her faculties about her, so she would have been in total panic.
Yeah, it was a rough time, man.
And I would have been freaked out because I wouldn't have been able to go see her.
Right.
I mean, if I didn't go up there every day, the nurses would call me and tell me your mom's depressed. So I can imagine how the elderly people during the pandemic were and their families.
Yeah.
Just terrible.
It was rough. I mean, it was genuinely rough, man. It was, man. But
I did have some good times. There are some positive things that came from the pandemic.
Let us know. What's up?
One is, since I started wearing masks, I haven't had a cold. I haven't had the flu. I haven't any kind of sinus infections or respiratory things. Of course, when I cut the grass too, I still wear an N95. Not because I'm afraid of COVID, because I'm outside, but because of the allergens and
the grass and all that. Oh yeah.
So, and if I don't, I cough. And then you go in the grocery store wearing a mask, and you're going. Then people are going.
They're looking.
I told one guy, he looked at me like, maybe you shouldn't be in the grocery store. I said, well, maybe you should be wearing a mask.
Oh.
You remember the little diagram? They were explaining how masks work. There were two guys facing each other, and they were peeing without pants on.
Oh.
And they got to pee on each other, and then one guy wore a pair of pants.
Scott, we were doing so good, man.
Gotta add a little levity to them.
Oh, you do, man. And hey, Scott will be with us every Thursday and Friday night. All right, it's comedy hour. Yo, but look, hey, Scott, let's wrap this thing up, man. Look, ladies and gentlemen, truth be told, the pandemic genuinely, it changed us. It was a lot, and a lot of people did not make it through. A lot of things happen, obviously, in media and news, but also in our day-to-day lives. And a lot of it we've come through, and we've helped, and we've changed. But we do not want to forget. We don't ever want to forget those that were unfortunate and were not able to make it through, that succumb to that disease. And look, Scott, we talked about it. It's not going. It's not done yet.
No.
And I think it's one of these things we're gonna have to consistently get checked on, because it's right here.
Well, a lot of people say, where did this come from? We've never had this before. Well, they don't look back in history. Mm-hmm. And they have to just look back like 15 years ago. We had SARS.
Yeah.
SARS is COVID.
Yeah.
And it's just that it mutated, and it's possible that they had the SARS virus in that lab in China. I forgot the Wuhan or something like that.
Wuhan, yeah.
And they were maybe making it into a biological weapon. And it escaped. And then they've got the theory that it came from a bat who bit a pig in a market, and that's how it got started. But if you ever notice, in Japan and China, people were always wearing masks. So what was that? What was that all about?
Hey, I hope y'all stayed to the end of this episode to see these different things Scott's bringing up, man. It's interesting. It'll make you think. It'll definitely send you down a rabbit hole on YouTube. But look, Scott, before we get out of here, man, where can the people find you, man? Are you gonna be on Thursday, Friday? What shows you gonna try to jump on?
Well, I'm hoping to be on Truth Be Told.
Yeah.
I do once in a while jump on some of the sports blogs or podcasts because I've become very close with some of you guys.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not that knowledgeable about most of the teams except for the Rams.
Yeah.
Johnny would say, I knew it. Right. You have to bring up the Rams.
only you've only done it twice in the show. I think that's good, man. You know. Oh yeah, man. Say, look, bro, Scott, we love having you, man. I'm not we get a kick out of the comments, and now that you've been on air and been able to hop on the show and co-host, man, you do a great job, man. Anytime you're around and you're available, man, I'm definitely down, my friend.
Well, you always do this show on the night when the Bachelor series is on. Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise. So
I know.
I'm recording it. I can watch it later. My wife really doesn't enjoy it, so I can watch it and ogle all the girls and the guy, not the guys, but the girls.
Yeah.
It's a little break from my day.
I know,
having to listen to the birds screaming and the dog, having to let the dogs out every 5 minutes because my wife's upstairs working. Remember to feed them. I even set an alarm for 6:30 so I could meet you in the backstage for this show. Because
my guy,
the mind doesn't work as good as it used to.
I understand.
And the medication I take, I mean, a lot of times you'll hear me go like, "What's that word? What's that word?" Yeah. I mean, I've lost it. I just had the word in my head. And it goes away. And I don't know if that's age or if I did have COVID and I got brain fog.
Could be. I know a lot of people are long haulers.
And I'm getting more comfortable on these shows, too. It's like before.
Yes.
I was like slurring my words, acting like I was mainly drunk, I think. And, I didn't feel comfortable. But tonight I felt very comfortable. Of course, you're a welcoming host, and, when I got Johnny on there, Johnny's always cutting me down or sending me private messages on my chat saying, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, but and then Johnny's always poking at you to say other things, so come on.
And then he blames me for Ben. He blames me for making Ben into a pervert.
Oh, no.
I think Ben has been that way long before me.
Oh, yeah. Well before you. Come on now, Johnny. Don't even do that, man. But look, hey, man, I got to cut it short. We've been here for a good hour. Hey, for my guy right there, great Scott Thaler, and your boy, Sean Spencer, this has been Truth Be Told. We hope you have a good rest of your week. Have a happy 4th of July, and we will see you next time, people.
Tell your friends.
Yep.